Uh, hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for this masterclass, which is going to be demystifying DeFi. As the session goes along, I think you are going to understand a lot about what is the DeFi space and what are some of the jargons, what are some of the things that are required for you to understand about the DeFi space itself, how is it different from traditional finance, etc. So one of the reasons why we wanted to have a demystifying DeFi is that when we asked a lot of women, do they understand the terminologies in decentralized finance, what are some of the blockers for them to actually get into Web3, the DeFi word came up a lot, and many of them did not have clarity on what this means. That's where we thought of kind of bringing in this concept, and we have two amazing speakers, Tina and Eva, with us, who are going to help demystify what is DeFi. For those of you who are new to the Phoenix Guild or are joining us for the first time, the Phoenix Guild is a community of women. I would say it's a community started by women to help other women get into Web3. The idea, or what we are doing differently at the Phoenix Guild, is that we help women break into Web3 by giving them their first ever task, bounty, or helping them basically learn through doing. That's how we are slightly different from other women-led communities who are also trying to get more women into this space. And of course, for helping them to get into Web3, to get them to do their first ever task, or to help them to attempt a bounty, we need to educate them on the different things that are happening in the Web3 space. Right. One of the things that we are doing right now, which is ongoing, is a Solidity Bootcamp, which is for about 100 women. And these women are being trained as we speak to write, read, and work with Solidity code. It's a 6-week boot camp, and as a part of this boot camp, we are inviting several esteemed speakers across the globe to give master classes on various topics that can help them break into the Web3 space. Even though our community is designed to help more women into get into this space, we also welcome more male allies who can vouch for us, give us a shout out, and of course we keep our sessions open for everyone because these are focused on education. Our today's session, as I've already told, it's about demystifying DeFi. We have two amazing speakers, Eva and Tina. We love their PFPs, and now we're also able to see them live. That's amazing. And they're going to be talking about all things DeFi in this space. And for those of you who are watching the recording, we would also love to invite Tina and Eva to our group, Telegram group, where we have a lot of conversations. And if you have any questions, always feel free to post on the group. As and when they have time from their busy schedule, they'll be able to share the answers with everyone. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over the stage to the speakers who are going to be the masters for today. So over to you, Eva and Tina. I've made you both co-hosts, so I think you should be able to share your screens and have all the kind of rights just as the host itself.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and Eva's going to kick us off. Eva, just let me know when you want me to advance your slide.
Great. Okay. Welcome to today's masterclass. It's our first time running a masterclass and collaborating with another community. So thank you for having us. Both Tina and I are from a community called Women Web3. So the next slide. Just to introduce you to our community, we are a DAO2B that provides and enables facilitated rabbit hole experiences called boat rides for women who want to become leaders, creators, and builders in the Web3 space. So our mission, make the Web3 rabbit hole experience more meaningful, collaborative, and sustainable for women. And we hope to be the first DAO that invests in women and non-binary people who wants to explore their Web3 dreams. So today's masterclass will be It's actually a short snippet from our boat ride called 8 Weeks of DeFi, where Tina and I are exploring the worlds and the depths of DeFi with other amazing women. And as with every session that we start off, we want to put a disclaimer out that we are not experts or financial advisors or gurus. We are just normal people with a curiosity for DeFi. And yeah, so with that, we'll start. In today's masterclass, we'll cover two areas, DeFi and TradFi, and as well as liquidity pools. To jump into the first one, we will firstly understand the definition of decentralized finance. Next slide, please. So the definition of decentralized finance is rebuilding traditional financial services in a decentralized way using smart contracts and blockchain technology. So before we can understand what DeFi is or what even they're rebuilding, we will take a closer look at what traditional finance is. So traditional finance is the management of money and providing fundings. And how the financial industry provides services like this is through commercial banks, investment banks, foreign exchanges, brokerage firms, or insurance. And how traditional finance gets their liquidity or profit is through lending and collecting interest on loans. So when you are loaning money from the bank, you are paying like a 4% interest or anywhere around there. So that's how the banks earn your money and have profit. So they also charge fees. So when you make a transaction, when you're applying for a new account or applying for a card, you have all these like account fees, penalties, application fees, and transaction fees. That's how traditional finance, financial institutions earn from you, charging commissions and acting as a middleman for financial transactions. So essentially all your fees and all your loans, your interest, that's how they earn from you. And in the next slide. So the financial infrastructure relies on trust in the financial institutions and service providers to act as intermediaries for transactions. So traditional finance rely heavily on intermediaries. They are your middlemen for all your transactions that you require. So it could be through regulations, your insurance, fraud protection, liquidity, etc., etc. So now we'll jump back into DeFi with a better understanding of what traditional finance is. So DeFi, in DeFi, you do not require a middleman anymore. So all these transactions and interactions between customer to customer no longer require a financial institution to be in the middle to facilitate the transactions. Decentralized finance acts as a service providers to turn money into more money. So in this case, if we see some examples, decentralized exchanges exist and they no longer require foreign exchange or stock exchange where financial institutions can come in and take profit. And for P2P asset transfers, that's what exists in the decentralized finance realm versus wire transfer and payments in the traditional finance. Same thing with decentralized lending and borrowing versus bank loans. So it's compared to getting liquidity in the traditional finance area where they take profit from your transaction fees and your interest. Liquidity in decentralized finance relies on individual players who are incentivized to pool assets. And the transaction fees are proportionally divided among individual participants. So that's a huge difference between how the traditional finance get their liquidity or their profit versus decentralized finance. And because of this whole decentralized finance, the idea of decentralization in general, it minimizes the need for trust in a middleman. So how DeFi does it is they're using smart contracts and immutable blockchain transactions to honor the decentralized concept. And in the decentralized space, the code is law. So the smart contract, how it's written, it is how it will be executed once the requirements are met. And there's interactions with direct smart contract or P2P no longer have a third party or middleman. And it eliminates barriers. So there's no longer credit checks. The bank no longer requires, you no longer need to submit your personal information like how much you're earning every year or your address to the banks. And there's no longer discrimination as well. And there's this concept that we want to warn you that with more risk. So in DeFi, they offer higher risk compared to traditional finance and higher returns. So something good to always keep in mind is that high returns always look really attractive, but there's always a high risk that is tagged along with it. So the risk can appear in many different forms. It could be a scam project, or there can be regulations and bans that might come in and just cause everything to go bust. So something you need to remember is that there's no safety net compared to traditional finance. So if you mess a transaction up in the decentralized space, like sending tokens to the wrong wallet, you're kind of on your own. You can't retrieve your money back. Like if you tell a bank that, hey, I send money, instead of to Tina, I send it to, for example, Sally. No, there's no way for me to reverse the funds and I can't get anything back. And in the decentralized finance space, because everything is so-called anonymous, there's no middleman, there can be many scams, exploits, and rug pulls. I think if you're in this space enough, you've seen a lot of examples of scams and rug pulls. And everything in the decentralized finance space is quite in an experimental stage. So it's lacking history. New technology hasn't been time tested, everyone's still learning, and sometimes through costly mistakes that could hurt you and hurt others as well. So with a better understanding of decentralized finance versus traditional finance, I believe the next part will be transitioning to liquidity pools, which is what Tina will be carrying on with.
Thank you, Eva. Okay, so now that we've gone over this overall idea of DeFi and some of its risks and benefits, let's take a look at an example of decentralizing something that was traditionally centralized. I like to learn through examples. I feel like this tends to make things a little bit more clear. So I'll set the stage for this section with some very basic economic and market concepts. So you may have heard of something called a liquidity pool, and it's okay if you haven't. I'm going to explain very much in depth what the what and the why of them. And to start off with, liquidity pools are the foundation of decentralized exchanges. So decentralized exchanges are blockchain-built marketplaces that allow people to trade or swap crypto for crypto in that permissionless and trustless manner. And decentralized exchanges can be compared to a foreign currency exchange or a traditional stock exchange. They kind of serve the same purpose, which is trading one asset for another. And individual blockchains will all have their own exchanges to swap tokens on those different networks. I just listed out a couple of examples that you may have heard of before. So if you're on Ethereum, you may have heard of Uniswap. BNB Chain has PancakeSwap. Avalanche has Trader Joe, and for instance, Terra Luna has Astroport. So these are all decentralized exchanges where you can go to swap tokens. Okay, so while the pool part of liquidity pool is probably kind of straightforward, let's talk about liquidity. So liquidity is the ability of an asset to be easily converted to cash or other assets. And cash is king because it's the poster child of a liquid asset. You can pretty much buy anything with cash. Securities like stocks are also considered liquid. You can easily sell them for cash at your brokerage. Whether or not you sold that for a gain or loss is another story, but you can still convert it pretty easily. Now, illiquid assets are assets that have value, but there is uncertainty over how easily and how quickly you can convert them to cash or other assets. Land, for instance, we know land is very valuable, But if you're trying to go to, say, McDonald's and you want to trade the equivalent value of land for a Happy Meal, it's probably not going to go very well for you at the drive-thru. So putting that all together, we see that the purpose of liquidity pools is to make it easier for us to convert crypto tokens into other crypto tokens. So liquidity facilitates transacting, and the basis of transacting is that every transaction needs a buyer and a seller. And this is pretty logical. You can't sell something that nobody wants to buy, and you can't buy something that nobody wants to sell. But transacting can also be really inefficient. Like if I have to go find a person who has a thing that I want to buy and is also willing to sell it at the price I'm willing to pay for it, that's going to be really inefficient. It's going to take me a lot of time to find that person who has that thing, who will take like how much money I'm willing to pay for it. So markets let us trade and transact efficiently by bringing together buyers and sellers. And that makes transacting more efficient. And we have markets for all kinds of things. We have markets for tangible goods, like fish markets, vegetable markets, shoe markets, whatever. Any kind of market that you can think of is a market. And we also have markets for financial assets, like stocks and bonds and currencies. So in traditional finance, in order to make our financial markets liquid, which means making them easy and reliable to trade financial assets, we have what are called market makers. The market maker is the middleman. So instead of you trying to find somebody to, say, buy your stock, you just sell it to the market maker. You let them worry about offloading it to the next buyer, and vice versa. They can take both sides of the trade, which is to buy or sell any financial assets. So in traditional finance, the market maker is a broker-dealer, such as a bank or brokerage, and they're always prepared to buy or sell a publicly traded asset. You can kind of think of them as providing the inventory of assets, really. And in order to do this, they need huge amounts of liquidity in both the assets that are being bought, so they can give them to the buyers, and they also need money to pay the sellers. So now we can jump back to DeFi. So to make a market to exchange crypto assets, we also need huge amounts of liquidity. But instead of having this centralized broker-dealer, like a bank, being the sole provider of this liquidity, DeFi uses liquidity pools. So just like with traditional market makers, liquidity pools allow us to trade without a specific counterparty. I don't have to go out and find an individual who is willing to trade crypto with me. And in DeFi, the liquidity pool acts as the middleman. So here's where things get a little bit more interesting, because anybody can add liquidity to a liquidity pool, which means anybody can participate in market making, not just institutions, just regular people like you and me. We can deposit our crypto into a liquidity pool, and that actually makes us market makers. So a basic liquidity pool will have two assets that are traded against each other. A liquidity pool that has, for instance, Ethereum and Bitcoin would allow people to swap Ethereum for Bitcoin or Bitcoin for Ethereum. And a decentralized exchange will aggregate a whole bunch of these different liquidity pools with all kinds of different trading pairs so that you can find pretty much anything that you want to swap for. And liquidity pools are created and managed not by a bank or a brokerage, but by algorithms. And these algorithms are known as automated market maker algorithms. There are different variations to this algorithm. So if you want to find out more about how they work, you can always look into the white papers at different decentralized finances to find out what they use. One of the very common ones is called the constant product automated market maker algorithm. And that one, I think it was made big by Uniswap. So if you want to find out more about that, it's probably a little bit out of the scope of this talk, but if you want to find out more, dive into Uniswap's white paper, and they probably have a lot of details about that. All right, so in traditional finance, market makers make money off trades by pocketing what's called the bid-ask spread. And this is the difference between the highest price that buyers are willing to buy an asset at the lowest price sellers are willing to sell it for at any given point in time. So they are taking this bid-ask spread as kind of their transaction fee, because they do take on a lot of risk holding all these assets, and they don't do that for free. So who is making money with liquidity pools and how? Well, as I mentioned, anybody can add liquidity to a liquidity pool. And if you choose to do so, you're known as a liquidity provider. And the incentive for people to provide liquidity is that when a trade is executed, there's a transaction fee associated. And that transaction fee for that trade is distributed among all liquidity providers proportionally to how much of the pool they make up. And liquidity providers can also withdraw their liquidity, which means take their tokens back if they no longer wish to provide liquidity to a certain pool. Okay, so that was a little bit of a long-winded way to show you that something in traditional finance that used to be kind of exclusive to these large and highly liquid, highly centralized institutions has become decentralized in DeFi through these smart contracts and blockchains, and also incentives. So the liquidity to facilitate trading comes from all different sources in decentralized finance. And all these sources have the option to benefit both from being a market maker by collecting fees and also having an efficient marketplace to trade in. All right, any questions? That was the end of my spiel on liquidity pools.
If there are any questions, please feel free to just like post your.
Yeah, you can either put it on the chat box or please raise your hand. I can unmute. I can get you guys to unmute and you can ask your question.
Yeah. Anything in the DeFi space? I know that there could be a lot of questions in this space, like some terminologies that you don't understand, or you just feel like something is too overwhelming and you want to just get clarity on that. I think now is a great time to ask, because we have amazing speakers who can make this happen. Okay, awesome. Yeah. I don't think we have any questions then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I have a doubt. May I ask?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have seen some exchanges like Binance or something. They help us to act as a liquidity provider. Like I have seen some options. I haven't explored it much, but I just want to understand. Like, if I am a liquidity provider, or if I'm gonna stake or something, what word I don't know. If I'm putting my tokens inside. On what you mentioned, that I'll be rewarded if I am acting as a liquidity provider, and that I can withdraw it whenever I feel like. So on what basis will I be rewarded? For example, if the demand for in a liquidity pool of both Bitcoin and Ethereum, if the Ethereum demand is increasing, and at that time I'll be rewarded, or on what basis is it happening? Can you clarify it?
Yeah, sure. So the rewards from a liquidity pool are basically from the transaction fees. So every time somebody, like for example, in our Bitcoin Ethereum pool, every time somebody swaps Bitcoin for Ethereum or Ethereum for Bitcoin, there's going to be a transaction fee charged by the exchange. So maybe that transaction fee is 0.01%, for instance. So over like, if you have a pretty popular decentralized exchange, this liquidity pool is used a lot. People are transacting a lot in this pool. So for like let's say there's like 5,000 transactions and they're charging 0.01% for each transaction. So what happens is these transaction fees get pooled all together, and then they get distributed to everybody who is providing liquidity to this pool. And it's distributed proportionally to how much liquidity you're actually providing. So if you, if you're just starting out, you don't have a whole lot of crypto, you only have like a couple tokens. So your percentage of the pool is probably going to be kind of small, which means proportionally, the percentage of the fees that you're going to collect will be kind of small as well. If you have a lot of assets and you deposit them all into a liquidity pool, you hold a larger proportion of that pool, which means you'll receive a higher percentage of those transaction fees. Whether or not the price of the assets goes up or down doesn't really affect the reward you're collecting. However, it does impact you if you want to withdraw your tokens. If you do remove your tokens when the price of the assets has changed relative to each other, you might incur what's called impermanent loss. So impermanent loss is basically the difference between the value of the tokens if you take them out of the liquidity pool versus the value of the tokens if you had just held on to the original amount that you had put in. Because depending on the price action of the two tokens, you may, if like at the point in time when you withdraw your tokens.
Yeah, I understand it. Like the impermanent loss
Okay.
will become permanent
Right.
only if I'm withdrawing it actually.
Mhm.
I understood it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Perfect.
Any other questions, ladies?
Yeah, Sylvia has raised her hand, Niveta. Can you unmute?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's unmuted. You can go ahead, Sylvia.
Okay. Hola. Thank you very much. My question is about the decentralized exchanges. As I understand, when we are using Binance, Coinbase, and that, we are using a centralized exchange. But I don't understand, I don't get why we are using centralized exchanges when we can use decentralized exchanges. Like, what's the difference in how those works? Because I want to jump like something like DX, DY, or 1inch. I think it's another option, but I still don't feel safe to jump to this side because I don't understand why why we are using centralized exchanges. What's the advantage, or what does we have to know and understand to safely use a decentralized one?
So some of the advantages centralized exchange provide is that they are direct on-ramps. So you can move, like, for instance, currency such as USD into your centralized exchange and then start to swap that for crypto. In decentralized exchanges, they don't take regular fiat money. They don't take USD, for instance. You would have to, like, say, trade it for a stable coin like USDC instead. So a lot of people use centralized exchanges as an access point to get to decentralized exchanges. So once you've, say, bought some crypto on that centralized exchange, you can withdraw it to your MetaMask wallet, for instance. And then from there, you can start using decentralized exchanges.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, just to add to that, another thing about centralized exchanges is also when you think from a wallet perspective, right? What happens is actually there is something called a public-private key pair that gets generated for every wallet. Your private key is the one that you use for signature, and your public key is the one that is generally used in terms of like your accounts and things like that, right? Now, what happens in a centralized exchange is that both the public-private key pair is held by the centralized exchange. Why are they holding your keys? So that they can make the signature on your behalf, right? Whereas in a decentralized exchange, it's more non-custodial. That means they are not holding any keys. That also means that you need to have enough knowledge of how to use a wallet, how to exchange one cryptocurrency to another. And like Tina already mentioned, you already need to have some crypto, whether it is in stable coin or whether it is Ethereum, Bitcoin or something. And how do you get that crypto? You buy it using fiat from a decentralized exchange. So that's the primary difference between centralization and decentralized exchanges are custodial versus non-custodial kind of concept, right? Where your keys are in your hand, you are in control of your crypto, but it also means that you need to have enough knowledge to be able to use that. So as you keep learning, you gain the confidence to start using the decentralized exchanges or DEXs. And of course, you have centralized exchanges to always buy for the first ever usage, you can just buy them through the centralized exchanges. So that could be one other way of looking at it.
Diane, I think also centralized exchanges, because they're subject to regulation, they tend to vet their coins a lot more than decentralized exchanges as well. So there's probably more safety, quote unquote, when you're using a centralized exchange like Kraken or Coinbase or something like that.
Yeah, that's true. Centralized exchanges, people have to work very hard to list their tokens on a centralized exchange. Whereas on a decentralized exchange, like we have the concept of liquidity provision, right? So anybody can create their token and provide liquidity on a decentralized exchange because it is decentralized, right? So that's the idea. Yeah.
Right. Anyone else? Or it can be.
Yeah, I have one more doubt. May I proceed?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I understood this. I have one more doubt. Like these days, many new people they are started to mint their own coins. They are publishing new coins are coming into the market. So how will they be getting this entry to this liquidity pool? Should they contact any centralized exchange or decentralized exchange? Like how will they get into this market? How will they get liquidity for their coins? Like it's new to the market, and they have initially they have their separate website. It is not yet listed in centralized exchange. Then how will they get to that step of being in a DEX and all?
So to get listed on a centralized exchange, you would probably have to work directly with the exchange, like Coinbase or Binance. Like as I mentioned before, they do tend to be more strict about what they offer there because they are regulated. As far as decentralized exchanges go, it will probably depend on the exchange. A lot of them allow pretty much anybody to set up their own liquidity pools, and they, after setting up that liquidity pool, they incentivize people to provide more liquidity to it by offering pretty high APRs or APYs on liquidity providing.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so ideally, whenever somebody creates their own new token, right, they will have to provide the initial liquidity. That's why you see there are these IDOs, or earlier called ICOs, right? What happens in an IDO, right? It's called initial DEX offering. So what are you saying when you say DEX offering? You're saying that my token will now be available on the DEX, right? But how will the token be available on the DEX? It will be available only if you create a liquidity pool, right? For example, if you create 100 tokens, right, for yourself, called Divya Preeta coin, right? And you're saying that one token is equivalent to $10. That means 100 tokens are equivalent to $1,000. So you can create a liquidity pool, which is 100 Divya Preeta tokens. Will be one token in the liquidity pool. The other token can be 1,000 USDC, for example, right? So you're saying 100 tokens are priced at 1,000 USDC. That means one token is priced at 10 USDC. And now you have, the moment you provide both of these tokens to the decentralized exchange, now your token is available on the decentralized exchange and people can buy it. And based on how people are interacting with your token and the sentiments around it, the price of your token may go up more than $10 or it may go down. So this is how the liquidity pool concept works. That initial liquidity has to be provided by the creator or by the holder, whoever, right? Whoever wants to provide can provide. That's where decentralized exchanges have come into picture, because they allow anyone to be able to provide liquidity, most of them at least.
Oh, okay, nice. Thank you again.
I think maybe if anyone else has questions, they can either reach out to Tina and Eva personally, maybe Twitter. We've shared their Twitter handles. If not, you can post it on the Phoenix Hill Telegram, and we can, send it to them, and maybe they can take some time out and send like a small answer back, if that works.
Yeah, and we just in general love to invite you both, Tina and Eva, to our Telegram group as well. I know you must be quite busy, but also running the Women in Web3, the DeFi exploration course, which must be taking a lot of your time. But we'd still love to just.
The 8 weeks of DeFi course is still running. I'm actually part of it, but I've been struggling a little bit while traveling but I've been going through the slides myself. So, hopefully I can join one of your live sessions. I'm not sure if you guys have planned like a second cohort already of the course, or.
Yeah, we are in the works of improving it and maybe doing it a second run. But right now it's still in the works, so I can't really.
Yeah, no solid plans yet.
Got it.
Yeah, but for you to keep in touch with us or to join us or anything, I just send our Twitter, our website, and there's an Airtable form for you to join our community as well. So, the Phoenix Guild is amazing. I love your Telegram group. It's buzzing with things going on, like questions and everything. And I'll definitely post in the Phoenix Guild when we have a new cohort coming up for DeFi, like a DeFi 2.0 boat, right? Yeah.
That'd be great for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And please also share links to your community, how people can join, because we are definitely open to cross collaborating. And, that's basically, there's only going to be strength in numbers, right? And the more female communities we are able to encourage and have them become a part of it, they're going to learn something different from every community. So feel free to share your links on the Telegram group as well, how people can join. And of course, as and when you decide to have a second cohort, we'll be more than happy to spread the word and get more folks to join, for sure.
Thank you. It was a really nice experience. It was the first partnership thing that Women in Web3 is doing. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Thank you for welcoming us into your community and for letting us do this little talk. It was really fun. And it was really nice to meet everybody too.
Same here. Thank you so much for the session today. We had a great time. It was a great overview, like an introduction into DeFi for a lot of us. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks Eva and Tina, and a special mention to folks who are able to join us even if it's a little later in the night. Really appreciate that you were able to join us today and kind of wanted to get this overview. And we have recorded the session as well, so if you want to come back for some more terminologies and stuff, always open. And once again, thank you so much, Tina and Eva, and we'll see everyone soon on the Telegram channel.
Yeah, thank you so much, ladies.
Thanks everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.